I've entitled this reflection, Some Unusual Friends. We've just heard some rather surprising words that Jesus once said to his disciples. You are my friends. You are my friends if you do what I command you. I do not call you servants any longer, because the servant does not know what the master is doing, but I have called you friends, because I have made known to you everything that I heard from my Father. You are my friends. These are among the last words of Jesus at the Last Supper before he left that little room and took the road that led him to Gethsemane and Calvary. He looked at these 12 men and used this simple phrase, possibly for the first time. My friends, not my servants, my followers, not my flock, or my church, or even my disciples. He took this common, simple word, friend. Friend, a word that everyone understands, and he baptized it into his church. Into his church forever. What he said to these confused and anxious disciples at that moment, he also says to us, you are my friends. Now, you might want to ask, is this an unconditional friendship? Are there no strings attached? We all know the kind of people who offer us their friendship, provided we do something for them, or perhaps contribute to the causes that they support, or share their political opinions, or agree with everything that they do. I'll be your friend if. Well, as you may have noticed, there is an if in this text. You are my friends, said Jesus, if you do what I command you. Now, that certainly sounds like an offer of friendship with strings attached. And at first sight, it might suggest that to win the friendship of Jesus, we have to commit ourselves to a book of rules and rituals, and spend our days worrying whether or not we're making the grade. You know, I believe that this is why many people hesitate to accept the church's offer of Christian discipleship today. If you do what I command you, it sounds a little bit intimidating and rather complicated until we discover what it is that Jesus actually commands us. And in this same passage, he tells us, this is my commandment, that you love one another as I have loved you. The friendship of Christ can be known only by those who are ready to be friendly to other people. I wonder if we've ever thought about that. The love which flows from God to each one of us reaches those who are prepared to show love, the indiscriminating love of God, to our neighbours, both near and far. We cannot claim the friendship of Christ if there's no spark of friendliness in our approach to other people, whether it's a close relative, a visitor to the church, or a tram driver. The love of God which we celebrate in church must be reflected in a welcoming warmth for everyone that we come in contact with. Most people, decide to join a church today most are drawn to it because of the friendship that's offered. They have a sense of finding a family, the companionship of people who really, really care. And the polls show that this counts far more as a reason for joining a church today than anything else, far more than the form of worship, the activities the church offers, the music, or the preaching. We live, as we know, in a city which, at least normally, crackles with social, intellectual, and cultural activities, but we also know that there are many, many people who are extremely lonely. Now, to say that a church offers this quality of friendship can sound trite. It may even sound untrue in many ears. Church members sometimes seem to be swamped with talk about friendship. We keep urging everyone to come to services, to church gatherings, to study groups, to clubs, to retreats even, and we print the word welcome all over the place. And you know, often churches have so overworked the word fellowship that it tends to become drained of meaning. And that makes our surrounding world somewhat cynical, perhaps even suspicious. And they may say something like this: these people only like to get together because they have the same interests, similar backgrounds, similar prejudices. If I want real friendship, they say, I'd rather go to the local pub. We've got a semantic problem. The fact is that there's no word in the English language that conveys the meaning of the word the New Testament used to describe the real but mysterious quality that makes a truly Christian church unique as a caring and sharing community. The Greek word is koiona, and it's variously translated in our Bibles. Fellowship is one way that it's often translated. Communion is another, but that can be an ambiguous word. And sharing perhaps is a little bit better, but it lacks that special dimension of fellowship in the Spirit which can be life-changing and empowering. You are my friends. When Jesus says that to us today, he's offering us a word that immediately appeals. It's a word that grows in breadth and depth, and which reveals that this koiona is absolutely central to the gospel. It's not just a byproduct that we offer to the lonely. Way back in the 17th century in England, George Fox, you've probably heard of George Fox, he was horrified by the uproar in the churches, which were going through a period of strife and division. They were fighting over points of doctrine and practice. And as a result, George Fox decided to rely on what he called the inner light, to seek the utmost simplicity, honesty, purity, charity for the life of his church. And his followers carried this message to other countries. And they eventually became known as Quakers. But one of their preferred names, and a title which they sought as one of honor, was the Society of Friends. And that is what a church should be. That is what our churches should be, not a collection of like-minded people, not a local branch of a worldwide institution, not a religious club, but a society of friends. Now, to give this word friendship its decisive Christian flavour, we have to dig a little deeper and pay heed to what I'm calling the breadth and depth of this friendship of Christ. "You are my friend," said Jesus. He didn't say, "You the virtuous," or "You the respectable," or "You the successful," or "You the Western world." So here is the answer to the jibe that is often thrown at the churches. As a minister, I've often heard the remark, "Oh, there's more real friendship, true friendship, in the local pubs than in the churches." But the point about the fellowship of a pub or a club is that you choose your friends. You choose them. You get together with those that you want to meet with. But the point about the membership in a church is that your friends are chosen for you. Your friends are chosen for you in a church. They're not necessarily people of similar interests or education or social background. Jesus looks at us and says, "You, all of you here, are my friends. I give you to one another simply because you are my friends, not because you're necessarily congenial to one another." And that's how it happens that in a really lively church, we make some very unusual friends. Unusual friends that we wouldn't normally meet anywhere else. A somewhat similar experience existed for those who spent time in prisoner of war camps in World War II. For there too, they were given companions, and they had to live in very close quarters with them for years. As time wore on, these prisoners learnt to accept and make friends on a broader base than ever would have been possible during peacetime. So what the church has to offer is an atmosphere in which we not only make unusual friends, but are introduced to the one who offers us nothing less than the friendship of God. Now, Jesus was known by many names: Savior, Shepherd, Prophet, Priest, King. But in the end, he offers himself to each one of us, as he did to his first disciples, as friend. And when we penetrate the deepest meaning of friendship, we shall see that this could be the greatest title of all. For a friend, a real friend, is one who understands us better than anyone else. And a friend is one who knows the worst about us and still stands by us and cares. Jesus is like that, as Paul wrote again and again to his friends. And then again, a true friend is one who freely opens his or her heart to us and reveals something of the very depths. Jesus says, "I do not call you servants any longer, because the servant does not know what his master is doing. I have called you friends, because I have made known to you everything that I heard from my Father." And so Jesus is for each one of us here the most unusual friend of all.